Good afternoon and welcome to KleverStock Live. I am Ainun Jariah.
And my name is Wan Eizzul Ainun.
And today we'll be taking a closer look at what young Malaysians are hoping to see in Budget 2026, which will be tabled later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Now, from job creation and fair wages to youth empowerment and leadership, the nation's younger generation has plenty to say about how this budget could shape their future.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's quite important to note that when it comes to tabling a budget, we need to always keep in mind future generations and how the youth of today, especially the rakyat, can impact the future of tomorrow. So allocations and also incentives, as well as how they need to allocate the budget properly in terms of how they need to focus their spending in order not only to serve the rakyat today, but also the rakyat of tomorrow.
That's right. So we've also spoken to a few Malaysian youths to hear their expectations. So let's start with Omar Qayyum, a fresh law graduate who shares his thoughts on youth development and empowerment.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Omar. I'm a fresh graduate currently working in law. If I could propose one priority for Budget 2026, it would be youth development and empowerment. And this should include traditional support like postgraduate opportunities and scholarship across various fields in Malaysia, helping Malaysia to build expertise in advanced, complex, and sophisticated areas, and eventually to create more quality jobs here locally. At the same time, we should invest in non-traditional approaches like leadership and political education to equip those from the relevant background like political science and international relations students. My main hope for Budget 2026 is that it would be people-oriented budget. This means it goes beyond just policy frameworks and economic targets, as we want to see the budget translated into tangible benefits that Malaysians can truly feel in their daily lives, whether through better opportunities, fairer system, or stronger communities. And I hope the best for Malaysia's Budget 2026. Thank you.
That was Omar Qayyum highlighting the need for stronger youth development initiatives, not only through scholarships and postgraduate opportunities, but also leadership and political education. Now, he made a key point about wanting a people-oriented budget. Yeah, one that goes beyond numbers and policies and focuses on, tangible outcomes that every Malaysians can actually feel in their daily lives. It is also a reminder that economic growth means little if it doesn't translate into real benefits for the people. What do you think about that one?
No, I think he's absolutely correct. I mean, most of the people nowadays, we think about when it comes to budget, all right? When it comes to budget, they want something that is like there, right in front of them, something that they can reach out and grab. We talk about subsidies, we talk about cash handouts, we talk about incentives like mostly financial incentives. Yes, true, we should have those things. A budget is, of course, it's not a budget without those things, those financial gains for the public, for the rakyat. But what Omar Qayyum is talking about right now is something on a deeper level. As the generation grows, especially the youth today, the current generation now, they are more focused on not having something that is right there in front of them, but they want something for their future.
Something that lasts long.
Yes, that lasts longer. I mean, his quote is that his main hope is like that the budget 2026 will be more people-oriented, which is a good thing. It's not just about the policies, it's not just about the targets that the country needs to reach. It's about how the budget can affect the lives of the people in the country. Cost of living, wage stagnation. Those are some of the key issues and principles that are currently facing the rakyat right now. What we are feeling. Like, people, when they look at the budget, when they're viewing the budget later on at around 4 p.m., they all want to know, how will it affect yourself? How will this budget affect me? How am I going to benefit from this?
And by effect means how will it improve their lives?
Yes, exactly. So it's not just about the cash handouts. It's not just about the incentives or the subsidies, you know, because most of the subsidies that have been already made out in the past, they don't focus really on they're not targeted subsidies from what I understand. It's
or maybe it's like temporary
relief, which, you know, some people, yes, we have to be grateful for what is given,
of course,
but we also, there's always a better way to do things. All right. One of the quotes that Umar Qayyum mentioned was a fairer system and stronger communities. That is something that is really important to understand. All right, a fairer system. So I'm pretty sure that most people, most of the public, they don't see some of the initiatives as fair in terms of the targeted subsidies, for example. It's not as blanket subsidies. We take it, for example, the fuel subsidy that just went on recently. Okay, people are still not impressed in terms of, yes, you got subsidies, but they're not really targeted or focused on helping the poor. You know,
why do you think that is? Is it because everyone gets the same amount?
Everyone gets the same amount.
Okay.
Whether you're a Malaysian, yes,
that
maybe
makes sense.
Someone from the T20 bracket or the top M40 bracket won't get the subsidy, but in a large scale, most of Malaysians are still getting the subsidy. Yes, this might be an unpopular opinion. I'm not saying that we should abolish the entire subsidy in total, but the government should focus on things like, how can we improve upon it? Instead of just targeting the whole of Malaysia, why don't we subsidize something else? Like, that will definitely help the poor people of Malaysia, the B40 segments, especially lower B40s. Like, for example, subsidizing public transport, you know, because that is what most of the people in the B40
I mean, logically, people from the lower income might not have a car to begin with.
So that's the exact point that Umar Qayyum is trying to make. Fairer systems. You know, yes, for the good of majority, subsidies is okay. But targeted subsidies or targeted the groups and the communities that you want to focus on, they're not the ones getting the actual help that is needed. All right? So how? I'm sure there are many different ways. For example, cash handouts specifically towards those people that are in need. That's probably one of the ways. And at the end of the day, the government needs to really focus on that development, especially the youth development that Umar Qayyum mentioned. Because the youth of today will definitely be the future of tomorrow.
Tomorrow's leaders, of course.
And I like how Umar Qayyum, because he's got a political background, you know, we've seen a lot of steady and good leadership coming from our youth most recently. I'll take, for example, YB Said Sadiq. He is an inspiration to all. He's people may think that he might become the next prime minister. We're hoping. We don't know.
We're hoping.
But let's keep that aside. But the main point I'm trying to make out is we need more leaders like him. Especially coming from the youth background, don't you think? Because with his fresh perspective, with his
understanding of what the
youth, yes, exactly, what they need.
Correct.
Don't you think that it's time for change?
Absolutely.
But that is for another topic. But it's a good topic, or it's a good point that Umar Qayyum has brought up. Is trying to get more budgeting or more allocations to help empower the youth, not just on a financial scale, you know, business centric, but also on a deeper level whereby they focus more community, they focus more on their goals and dreams.
Deeper and in a more holistical way.
True.
All right, so next we have Farid Hazwan, a fresh accounting graduate, a different background, who shares his views on the minimum wage and Malaysia's wage structure.
Obviously, I like to see the government raise the minimum wage. I think the government has been quite progressive in raising the minimum wage ever since 2018. So, if I'm not mistaken, this year BNM has actually pointed out a structural issue in Malaysia's economy in which, even though the productivity has been rising since 2019, our real wages have actually gone down. So that's actually led to stagnant incomes for workers and a widening gap between productivity and pay. So I really hope that in Budget 2026, the government will introduce more progressive wages policies, as well as introducing more policies that will hopefully attract high value investment, and hence will be able to support rising the minimum wage.
Alrighty, so Farid made an excellent point where despite productivity rising in recent years, real wages have actually declined. I mean, are we even surprised at this point? So according to Bank Negara, this gap between productivity and pay remains a major structural issue. So any effort to raise the minimum wage in Budget 2026 must come hand in hand with reforms that boost productivity and attract high-value investments. He also mentioned something about something that is equally important, which is the need for structural reform and fiscal discipline. So what can you comment about that one?
No, I agree with Farid. I mean, over the years, we've seen that wages are very stagnant. It's not that we are... Okay, yes, there has been an increase in minimum wage. It's been going up, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Government should definitely keep doing what they're doing with regards to minimum wage raising. But it's not about only just increasing that of the minimum wage. The issue that we are facing nowadays, that most of the youth are facing nowadays, is even if their minimum wage is increased, the price, the cost of living is still increasing. So there's still a huge gap in terms of what they are earning and what they can afford. So it's come to the point whereby the GDP ratio to our wages is not actually aligned in a way that whereby we as the youth definitely, yes, we're earning more than the youth of the past. I mean, when I was a fresh graduate, I was earning a fresh grad salary of 2005. When you were a fresh graduate, you were about maybe 2.8. Maybe it's a slight increase.
About that, yeah, around that.
Yeah, but it was an increase.
Yeah.
But as time goes by, things get more expensive.
Correct.
Inflation is the big key factor here, and it's just not enough. That's the thing.
I mean, with 2.5K, I think you can afford many things back then, right?
Compared to what I can afford now, it's definitely not the same. Definitely not the same. And there also needs to be an issue, or we need to also talk about skills. Skills, different kind of skill sets as well. Yes, minimum wage is going up, but I think what the government should be more focused on investing in, especially for the youth, is educational, more towards the educational background and skill sets. So the youth need more opportunities to develop their skills. If they can develop their skills, they can go for more higher paying jobs that can help them withstand that of cost of living currently in Malaysia right now.
But what kind of skills though?
Okay, we are talking about the next generation of skills. We've got AI, digital industry, semiconductors. I know for a fact that the government has been focusing a lot on vocational proficiencies. So they've been investing a lot in vocational studies, whereby students or those who are leaving SPM would enter a vocational institution, and they would be they would already learn firsthand the skills required to survive in this upcoming this new generation of work. Okay, so I think that is something that we can not only just focus on, but also it's something that we can do better in, because those skill sets for the future right now with AI, semiconductors, high energy, renewable energy, they are still lacking. We do not have the capital, we do not have the human capital, or fresh graduates or people who are experts in those industries. So that is something that definitely the government should be focusing on, and to help the youth make a living for themselves.
I mean, efforts have been made, but it's still a work in progress.
Yes.
We're just starting, with AI and everything.
Exactly. So, apart from just structural reform or fiscal discipline, we need to focus on, like I mentioned previous video, with Omar Qayyum's video, it's about helping the youth generate it's not helping the youth, handing out assistance to the youth. It's helping build them in a way that
we train them.
Yeah, train them, build them. We can take whatever the necessary skills or the necessary training that the government can provide to help better ourselves in the future. So we're not asking for a handout. Most of the youth, they're not asking for a handout. They want more opportunities.
Yeah.
So that is what I think is more important. Now, I understand that Farid Hazwan has another video shared with us. But before we get to that video, we'll take a quick break. And we'll be right back after this to continue our segment, our live budget review with KleverStock.
I really hope that the government can actually follow through on its structural reform agenda in budget 2026. Things like subsidy rationalization, taxation reforms, and the improvement of overall fiscal structure. We know that the Madani government's term will end in about 2 years, so there's a real risk that they might start factoring in political considerations and introduce more populist measures in its budget 2026. So I really hope that the government will stick to its structural reform agenda that they've been advocating this year. And for me personally, I'm quite interested to see whether or not the Madani government can actually achieve its 3.8 fiscal deficit target for 2025, as announced by
And welcome back to KleverStock with myself, Wan Eizzul Ainun
Jariah.
Now, we are here doing a special segment for Budget 2026. We are doing the preview of Budget 2026, where we're taking a look at some of the public reactions, especially focusing more on the youth, what the youth have been saying and what they are expecting of Budget 2026. Now, previously we had one of the respondents, Omar Qayyum. He talked a little bit about youth development and empowerment. And then we also heard from Farid Hazwan, an accounting graduate, who talked a little bit about minimum wage and the gaps that we are facing when it comes to our minimum wage and the cost of living currently and for the youth, as well as productivity. Yes, that is correct. So now we have another video from Farid Hazwan, who also discussed a little bit about his hope, as well as structural reform and fiscal discipline. All right, so let's take a look at that video and then we'll talk about it a little bit more afterwards.
Prime Minister this year. I really hope that the government can actually follow through on its structural reform agenda in Budget 2026. You know, things like subsidy rationalization, taxation reforms, and the improvement of overall fiscal structure. We know that the Madani government's term will end in about 2 years, so there's a real risk that they might start factoring in political considerations and introduce more populist measures in its Budget 2026. So I really hope that the government will stick to its structural reform agenda that they've been advocating this year. And for me personally, I'm quite interested to see whether or not the Madani government can actually achieve its 3.8 fiscal deficit target for 2025, as announced by our Prime Minister this year.
Right on. So for the second video from Farid, he raised a valid concern about populist spending ahead of elections. You know, with the government targeting a 3.8% fiscal deficit by 2025, staying on track will require tough decisions, right? Particularly around subsidies and tax reforms. So this reflects a growing awareness among youth that fiscal sustainability is just as important as short-term relief. Isn't that right, Wan?
Yes, that's true. I mean, I like what Farid has mentioned here about the political move. We have to also understand that, yes, what he mentioned, that the Madani government, they've got about 2 years left of their current stint. We don't know if they're going to be re-elected or not. That is up for the rakyat to see what happens over the next 2 years. Especially this budget, it's crucial. It's crucial. Not only is it the first budget for the 13th Malaysian Plan, the 13 MP, it's also the budget that will make or break, I would say make or break, Anwar Ibrahim's Madani government, whether or not they get re-elected or not at the next general election. So now the question is, Ainun, is how does the government balance themselves on creating or making a budget that is political friendly towards making a budget that is actually in line and beneficial for that of the rakyat? Okay, because we know that they're going to have to, I wouldn't say cut corners, but they're going to have to make something flashy for the rakyat, so that the rakyat, thinks, okay, they're still useful. This government is still cares for us.
Thinking about them.
Thinking about the rakyat. Yes, that's true. But then it's a double-edged sword, in my opinion. Whereby if you do something like that to appease the rakyat of today, what will happen down the line? What will happen down the line when your term is up and the rakyat is calling for new elections, and if they get re-elected again, are they going to continue with the same thing? Is it going to be just a copy-paste and the same thing is happening every time, or is there going to be actual change?
And what if the rakyat's expectations are not being met?
Yes, that is another thing.
Towards the end of their,
I won't be too critical and I won't be too negative in a way that Anwar Ibrahim's government have not done or any benefit. They've been improving. There has been change. There has been change. I'm not going to deny that fact. And there has been structural reform. There's been a lot of structural reform over the past few years under the Madadi government. We've got e-invoicing, for example. We've got, yes, the targeted subsidies have now been rolled out, first with diesel and now with RON 95 petrol. But as you can see, these are more like they're politically motivated in order for them to, gain favor with the rakyat.
Gain the rakyat's trust.
Yes. Populist measures. This is what Faris, he mentioned, these populist measures. It what's make the government popular, all right? The news. But
favorable.
then, favorable. But then what happens when the news media start covering other things? What happens when the media move on to we as media? Of course, we will cover the news of today. All right. So today we've got budget happening. There's going to be a lot of hype about budget. What's going to be happening? The good, the bad, advantages, disadvantages. That's going to be what we are covering today.
Our main topic for today.
Main topic. But then what happens next week, or the following week, or next month? When budget has, it's at the back of our minds. It's the back of the rakyat's minds. When the popular topic or the popular opinions have disappeared, it's what remains, the structure and the reforms that remains that actually are the ones that are going to benefit the rakyat. In a way that, the structural reform agenda that Faris has mentioned, it's key to understanding that we need to make decisions. The government needs to make the decision not just by popular vote, but also something that will help really benefit that of the rakyat for the future generations to come. All right. Yes, it's a good thing, the target of 3.8% fiscal deficit by 2025, but I recently met or interviewed with an analyst who said even though our deficit is reducing, it's the rate at which the ratio of which our GDP and that of what people are earning, that is the one that's actually that the government should be focusing on. Previously, he mentioned that it was around 20%. The ratio, the GDP ratio to wage and to spending, it was about 20% back in 1980s, during our solid years. And now it's only reduced to about the teens, like 13. What happened to the 7%? We, compared to other countries in ASEAN, like Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, we are lacking behind in that ratio, whereby they're about 30-35%. We're still trying to get to 20%. So it's the ratio of which our GDP compared to that wage ratio as well as the spending ratio. It's something that needs to be looked at in detail, so that at the end of the day, Ainun, so would you rather have something that will benefit you now or something that will benefit you tomorrow?
I prefer both.
I mean,
I'm
of
being
course.
completely honest, but of course, when we think about it, of course, the future should be prioritized.
Exactly,
obviously.
because we want to make that investment. We need to make that investment for the future. Because what we earn today, we can spend whatever we earn today, but at the end of the day, it does not help secure our future in the long run. So we need to focus on that, and there is, like you mentioned earlier, there's growing awareness with the youth of today. We are looking at a generation where we've got more entrepreneurs, we've got more youth starting businesses, more youth exploring different industries like AI, like semiconductors. We've got more youth now branching out from the how can I say, the traditional pathway. Now, not everyone is just going to university, graduating, and then finding a career. Yes, but there are also youth that are more talented in different ways. We have so many different aspects, and that is what I think needs to be looked at and given an opportunity to expand or grow.
Yes,
all right?
Absolutely.
There needs to be, like I mentioned earlier, right? When it comes to these kinds of things, fresh perspective is needed. I mentioned YB Said Sadiq. He's a fresh perspective. He has a fresh perspective on the youth, what the youth really need.
Because he is a youth himself.
Exactly.
He is from the same generation.
Exactly. I think it's because a platform is needed for them to be heard more. The youth need to be heard more so that they can, give them valuable input that is needed for the government to listen to and for the government to take part in. And, previously I remember a few years back, they did a lot of town halls, a lot of peer-to-peer discussion where the Prime Minister would go towards universities, they would speak directly, one-to-one with students, and they would talk about what is lacking, what is needed, and
what needs to be improved.
What needs to be improved. And I really enjoyed those sessions where they did those town halls or those peer-to-peer feedback sessions, because at that moment in time, we as the youth felt heard.
Yeah.
We were, our problems were heard.
And validated.
Validated is one thing, but, the government took that into consideration, and that's how we improved.
Yeah.
Policies were created to help the youth of today, and youth of yesterday as well, to get a better foothold on the current economy, get a better foothold on their spending, get a better foothold to serve that of the country in the long run.
In the long run,
because at the end of the day, yes, Malaysia is an aging nation. We need to know that, yes, Malaysia, they're an aging nation. There's a lot of, a lot of pointers here whereby we need to build the youth of today so that we can build the economy of tomorrow. Okay?
And that makes perfect sense.
Definitely.
Yep.
So with that, we're going to go on a quick short break. We have one more respondent coming up from a very different background, whereby he will be talking a little bit about multimedia. This is going to be an interesting topic because we are from a multimedia background, both myself and Ainun, and I think this next topic will definitely be something that we can definitely give more input in.
Yeah.
All right. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned right here on KleverStock with me, Wan Eizzul Ainun
and I'm Ainun Jariah.
And we will be right back with the Budget 2026 preview live on KleverStock.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Ainun Jariah.
And my name is Wan Eizzul Ainun.
And today we will be continuing talking about the budget preview from the youth's perspective about their hopes and expectation for budget 2026. So right now we'll hear from Siti Soleha, a multimedia graduate who shares her take on what she hopes to see in budget 2026.
Hi, my name is Siti. I'm a multimedia fresh graduate. As a fresh graduate in multimedia, saya sangat berharap bajet 2026 akan memberi lebih banyak perhatian kepada keperluan dan cabaran yang dihadapi anak muda masa kini. Contohnya, dalam bidang kreatif yang semakin berkembang, saya lihat sangat banyak fresh graduate yang sukar mencari pekerjaan yang stabil dan gaji yang setimpal atas kerana persaingan yang sangat tinggi dalam bidang media. Saya berharap kerajaan boleh menyediakan lebih banyak peluang pekerjaan yang sesuai dalam bidang kami, dengan bidang kami, dan dalam masa sama menggalakkan syarikat-syarikat untuk memberi gaji yang berpatutan untuk graduan-graduan baru seperti kami. Harapan saya untuk bajet 2026 ini sebagai anak muda Malaysia bukan sahaja fokus pada peluang pekerjaan, tapi juga membangunkan bakat dan masa depan anak muda. Contohnya, kerajaan boleh menyediakan bantuan atau grant untuk projek kreatif dan perniagaan kecil-kecilan, serta lebih banyakkan program yang menyokong dalam bidang digital dan inovasi. Saya juga berharap suara anak muda seperti saya lebih diambil kira dalam proses bajet kali ini, kerana bagi saya pandangan anak muda seperti kami penting untuk masa depan negara.
Yes, finally a perspective from someone in the creative industry. So, from what I've heard, Siti's perspective adds a great balance to what we've heard so far, touching on youth employment, fair pay, and of course the need for stronger government support in the creative and digital sectors. Her comments reflect a wider concern among youth Malaysians who are eager to see policies that not only create jobs but also nurture innovation and long-term career growth in emerging industries. I mean, for me personally, as a mass comm graduate, I do feel like there's not enough opportunities for mass comm backgrounds. Okay, when it comes to, for instance, scholarships. Most scholarships are for people in the science, technology background, STEM background basically. They don't give out scholarships for people like us, honestly, because they feel like, I'm not sure, this is just my personal opinion though, I feel like we're not being heard as much because people in general don't really see how the creative industry is benefiting the country. Unlike those from, the science background, people who study AI, because of course AI is emerging right now, so they need to send out people to learn more about AI, right? But what about people like us? I do think that we still need creativity in this country, but that's just me though. What do you think, Wan?
Okay, this is definitely a good point that we can explore together, because both of us coming from a multimedia background, creative industry background, we feel as if we've been handed the short end of the stick, right? Whereby definitely not many opportunities. And I, with quite a number of years of experience, would agree. Because, yes, we cannot deny the fact that the government needs to focus on those high industry players, those high industry income areas like AI, semiconductors, because at the end of the day, it's going to be the industries that will help us
directly benefit the country
and help improve our GDP.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereby people in the creative industry, multimedia industry, they might have to take a back seat for now. But that doesn't mean that
we should be completely ignored
or neglected. But that's not the point that I want to make. The point that I want to make is that with emerging trends and emerging industries, we need to find a way to work hand in hand so that we can hand in hand in a way that balance and also benefits everyone, not just one part of the community. Because we know people who are more creatively based or have more of a creative mindset, they will find a way to work their ways into the industry in order for us to, let's put it this way. You cannot go with one without the other, all right? AI, for example. AI is huge right now, making the waves, and everyone is using AI for every single part of the daily lives. So AI is being used by each and every industry in their own particular way.
Copywriting,
yes, marketing. We've got people using AI to develop and create scripts, produce movies. You know, AI has grown to an extent whereby they can create videos now for you as well. So it's an evolving industry that can be put anywhere, all right? Not just creative, but also within the science STEM fields as well. You know, so how can the government take the initiative to not only benefit one segment of the community, but all of the segments of the community? So what kind of relief or what kind of training that can be provided by the government so that it can help benefit not just one side, the STEM or the science field, but also those who are in more art, creative, multimedia field? There should be programs whereby people get the opportunity to learn about AI or to train themselves in AI that can help benefit not just one part of the economy, but also the others, okay? So that is the one thing that I'd like to mention in terms of what needs to be focused on. Another thing that I believe needs to be focused on, it wasn't really mentioned by City, but it is still relevant in terms of in youth perspective. And this is not just youth our age. I think we are also missing key age group here. It's that of our grassroots. People in schools, not universities, schools. All right? I think one of the things that can help us for our future generations, for the future, is in a way trying to find a balance of healthier alternatives in the school when you are young. Okay? What I'm trying to say is, for example, the health conscious wise, when you are young, you need to eat healthy in order for you to concentrate.
Include the health education.
Yes, it's not
starting
only
from a younger age.
Start from a younger age. You need that the basic necessities, fundamentals. When our youth or when the kids in school are healthy and can concentrate and focus on their curriculum, it will help in the long run in terms of better education, less diabetes, less health concerns, health factors. Because when we start young, it will definitely help us in the future. All right, but I don't want to go into a lot more detail on that, because in the following segments we do actually dive into that a little bit in my next interview. But what are your final thoughts on Siti's video?
Well, I think most of the points she mentioned are quite similar with what Omar and Farid have mentioned, you know, about fairer pays and stuff. And I do agree. I do think that for people in our industry, we kind of struggle in terms of pay, right? People keep saying that, oh, why are you becoming a journalist? You know, the pay is low, you know, things like that. So I think if the government could increase our wages, it would, you know, help us in terms of, because we are the ones who are reporting what the government is doing, right? At the end of the day. I mean, not saying that at the end of the day, we work for the rakyat, not just for the government, not
we
for
were considered frontliners back then during COVID, you know.
Yes, especially during like these kind of like critical times like COVID, right? So in a way, we are doing this to, you know, like a, how do you say, appreciation, I guess. Yeah. So, right. So basically, those were some strong and insightful thoughts from our youth representatives. Anything else you would like to add, Wan?
I think there were definitely some really good points made by the youth of today. We can see that the youth of today, they don't just want to sit idly, stand by and wait for things to come their way. They are being proactive, which is a good thing, and we want them to be more proactive, and we want the youth to speak up more so that they get their voices heard and the government listens to them and can also help, all the policies that can be created to help the youth can get that fresh perspective that I mentioned a lot of times, fresh perspective, all right?
Exactly.
So that's all from myself. I think that's all that needs to be said.
Right, so we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I'll be breaking down what experts and policymakers are hoping to see in this year's budget and what it could mean for Malaysia's youth moving forward. Stay tuned. And once again, you're watching KleverStock Live. Welcome back to KleverStock Live. I'm Ainun Jariah and I will be your host for today. Now, before the break, we heard from several young Malaysians, Omar, Farid and Siti, sharing their hopes for Budget 2026, from fair wages and job opportunities to greater government support for creative and digital industries. Now let's take a look at what experts and policy makers are hoping to see in this year's budget and what it could mean for Malaysia's youth moving forward. Now, first and foremost, the Youth and Sports Ministry hopes Budget 2026 will continue prioritizing youth and sports by strengthening allocations for nationwide development initiatives. Minister Hannah Yeoh said the ministry has submitted a comprehensive wish list to the Finance Ministry covering leadership development, community sports and infrastructure. She stated that the wish list includes maintaining the sports matching grant, community sports fund and constituency allocations that have proven effective in grassroots development. At the same time, the ministry also requested additional funding to strengthen the Rakan Muda program, develop more young leaders under 30 and support the Road to Gold and para-athlete development programs nationwide. Which is similar when you think about it with what Omar had expected for Budget 2026, a program which focuses more on leadership among youth. Let's continue with the next slide. Now, meanwhile, MCA Youth Secretary General Saw Yi Feng has urged the government to ease economic pressures on young Malaysians through a more youth-friendly fiscal framework. Their 10-point proposal includes raising personal income tax relief from 9,000 ringgit to 12,000 ringgit and promoting rent-to-own housing schemes to help first-time home buyers. MCA Youth also recommended tax breaks and subsidies for companies that hire graduates for jobs that match their qualifications, a move to tackle the growing underemployment crisis. They added that blanket subsidy cuts have hit young workers hardest, as many are caught between rising costs and stagnant wages, and urged the government to reintroduce GST for a fairer, more transparent tax system. However, according to several news articles, this is quite unlikely because our Prime Minister, Datuk Anwar Ibrahim, did mention that reintroducing GST would be unfair to those from the underprivileged groups. So we'll see what's going to happen later this afternoon at 4 p.m. Right, moving on to the next slide. Okay, so experts also highlight that underemployment, not unemployment, has become a bigger challenge among Malaysian youth, which is surprising to me, honestly, because I've always thought that unemployment is a big issue. But turns out there's also a bigger issue, which is underemployment. Now, according to Ho from the Higher Education Malaysia Association, nearly 432,000 youths are now underemployed. Now, what does underemployed mean? It means that many of them are trapped in jobs that do not match their qualifications or pay grade. For instance, let's say you have a bachelor degree in science or engineering or accounting, but you're currently working in retail, which happens a lot, honestly. Personally, as a fresh graduate myself, I've had several friends who graduate with background in sciences, but now they're working in marketing and stuff, something that just doesn't match their qualifications and hard-earned degree. Again, this is a 10% increase, which is just one quarter. So he also mentioned that Budget 2026 must drive investment in sustainable growth sectors, strengthen local startups, and of course expand reskilling programs in areas such as AI, problem solving, and English proficiency, which is highly crucial. Now, such measures, he added, would help young Malaysians transition into high-skilled jobs and compete in the fast-evolving global economy. Right, so moving on to the next slide. So similarly, Amin Mubarak from the Architects of Diversity, or AOD, called for a long-term reskilling strategy to prepare youth for the AI-driven future of work. He said employers today value not only technical skills like data analytics and cybersecurity, but also adaptability, teamwork, and critical thinking. These are all super important. And Amin also stressed the need to modernize TVET programs and align them with green energy, digital services, and tech industries, especially for those without university degrees. Now, beyond jobs, he urged the government to scale up tele-mental health access. Oh, this is interesting. Following models like Canada's online counseling services to make mental health support accessible and affordable for rural youth. Because as we all know, paying for therapy are expensive. Right, so moving on to the next slide. Right, so across the board, experts agree that Malaysia needs more than short-term relief for its youth. They are collectively calling for structural reforms from job matching and tax fairness to mental health, innovation and education access. Budget 2026, they say, must invest in skills for the AI economy, inclusive opportunities for rural youth, and support systems that protect young Malaysians' well-being. Ultimately, it's all about giving youth the tools, trust, and voice to shape the nation's future, not just adapt to it. And that wraps up our Budget 2026 Youth Preview here on KleverStock Live. From youth empowerment to fair wages and structural reforms, it is clear that young Malaysians are paying attention and they are ready to hold policymakers accountable. We'll be bringing you live coverage of the Budget 2026 tabling at 4 p.m. today, so stay tuned for all the highlights and expert commentary right here on KleverStock once again. I'm Ainun Jariah, your host for today. Thank you for joining us, and as always, stay informed, stay curious, and stay invested.